Right now, New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. And Congresswoman, you voted for the ban. But has your stance changed now that we've got this request from President-elect Trump?
No, I mean, I understand what President Trump is saying, and that is why the ban on TikTok was actually a ban on Chinese Communist Party ownership of ByteDance, and that they need to divest themselves and look for a private entity or a non-Chinese Communist Party controlled entity, because they're a purveyor of propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and those, many argue, are not protected by the First Amendment, which is what this all comes down to. But I think in the hands of someone other than the Chinese Communist Party, and I understand President Trump, it's an effective tool. It's used by tens of millions of Americans. Many people use it for business and commerce. And so how do we protect them from being victims of propaganda and victims of spying and national security concerns by the Chinese Communist Party? And so I think that's what we're looking at when the Supreme Court ultimately will hear the oral arguments and rule on this. Look, I think that TikTok does need to be preserved in some way, but it cannot be under the control of the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay. Well, and you've got two state attorney generals that are still filing suit. They filed their own amicus brief on Friday to say that they want the ban to go through. They say that TikTok is a danger. Virginia, one of those two states, because they feel like we're protecting our citizens in our state, and we're saying that TikTok is dangerous. And I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do, Congresswoman, but your opinion would be very helpful.
It is not protected speech. First of all, it's a foreign entity owned by the Chinese Communist Party, which is considered an adversary. They do not have First Amendment rights. They're kind of going around the bend by trying to say, well, our subscribers actually are protected. Well, we know that this has been a real issue when it comes to the propaganda and the spying of these people. But look, I know when this first came about earlier this year, I spoke with Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, who was trying to put together some kind of plan to buy it and take over the platform. And I'm not sure what that would do, but that's something that I think Trump's attorneys also suggested. Let's get an American company or Americans to actually take this over and protect those who are using it for commerce. And I think that's what we're trying to find out. I don't think it can happen by January 19th. I know Kevin O'Leary was very interested in all that, but this is a real problem, though, when you have this very popular, spying device, basically used by so many Americans unwittingly, exposing their life to the Chinese Communist Party, which could put our entire nation, under national security threat. And that's where people don't really understand that protecting us and being able to monitor this from the United States side and using regulations is one thing, but that's
right.
The real problem with it.
Right.
I know it's popular. Yeah. I don't have TikTok. Sure. We were advised not to use it, but
I don't have it either. Marie Bartiromo doesn't have it. I mean, many of us do not use it, but understand the appeal. I want to switch gears. Friday's the vote for Speaker Mike Johnson. So Congressman Thomas Massie says he came out today, still says he's not going to support Johnson, despite the endorsement from President Trump. Representative Victoria Spartz also coming out today. She's not swayed either. Other GOP members are on the fence. Listen to the interviews we've done.
I know there have been a number of members who have expressed interest in continuing the conversation about Speaker Johnson and where we go from here. But I think he's been working very hard to try to accommodate the needs of the individual House members and the priorities of the incoming administration.
Do you support Speaker Johnson or not?
I think that Mike has done an admirable job under tough conditions, but I'm going to keep my options open. With Thomas Massie already saying he's a hard no, people like Victoria Sparks saying that they're likely a no, that's concerning.
Just raised a lot of concerns about how we're going to do things. Are we going to work within our conference to get the solution, or are we automatically going to run to the Democrats to get votes? There needs to be a better communication between the leadership and the membership.
Obviously, your fellow New Yorker, Nicole Malliotakis. By the way, Elon Musk posted this today in response to Massie today. Quote, "You might be right, but let's see how it goes," end quote. That's from Elon Musk. Where do you stand on all of this?
I support Speaker Johnson 100%. I supported him when he was running, I supported Jim Jordan. We went through all this. I think he's done a very admirable job. I agree with Scott Perry there. I don't think anyone else in our conference can do the work that Mike Johnson has done. No one else is as steeply, vetted in our constitutional conservatism. He's a movement conservative. He is also extremely smart. He is also, has the humility and the patience to work with every member. He understands the political side of this. He is a 100% America First supporter and very strong supporter of President Trump from day one, always has been. He understands what's at stake. What some of these people that are frustrating to see my own colleagues say is that, well, why does he work with Democrats? We have to work with Democrats. My colleague Nicole Maliotakis worked with Democrats all the time when we were in the New York State legislature together. We were, at one point, it was 108 Democrats to 42 Republicans. We have to work with Democrats. The Senate was Democrat. We had a Democrat governor, and we don't have President Trump in office, the Senate majority, and the Republican majority. So in order to finish the business we had to do this year, we had to do that. Johnson has to work with these people to try to make sure that we work with every single member. And I can't imagine that he has not worked with every single member. I've heard a lot of little petty grievances from some members saying, I didn't get this in the CR, so I'm not going to vote for him. Tom Massey is a libertarian and he's got his own reasons. But look, this comes down to governing and power. The Democrats always know what it means to be in power. Nancy Pelosi always got unanimous votes out of her conference because when she had to face either President Trump or a Republican Senate, she knew that her only leverage was unanimity. We don't have that and this is a dream for the Democrats to hear Republicans so splintered on this. Mike Johnson's job is to run the conference, steer the Titanic away from the iceberg, which is what he did by avoiding a government shutdown, where Joe Biden and the Democrats control the government. They would have controlled the spending. They would have controlled reopening the government. They would have gotten everything they wanted. And he knew that was not an option. Had President Trump been in office, and we did have shutdowns when Senator Schumer shut the government down, we could rest easy as Americans and as Republicans, because we know that President Trump wouldn't inflict pain like the Democrats are. Just look at the outgoing Biden administration, the things he's trying to do.
Exactly.
So I just think there's a lot of petty grievances that a lot of them are leverage, I think.
Understood.
A lot of them are insincere, and they're trying to get something.
Congresswoman Tenney, it's always great to speak with you. Thank you for being here. We'll be right back, everybody.
Thank you.